Another edition of Beat the Closing Number presented by thelines.com. My name is Eli Hershkovich. You can follow The Lines on Twitter at TheLinesUS. You can follow Mo Nuwwarah on Twitter at Mo Nuwwarah, the Lines MLB lead analyst, breaking down the Wednesday card here on May 24th. Just one game to go over, Dodgers at Braves, and an interesting storyline happening in baseball in a negative sense or positive sense, depending how you're betting on it. But before we get started, remember to give the video a thumbs up and ring the bell to get notifications whenever The Lines releases a new sports betting video on any market, including Mo's day-to-day MLB bets. And you can get those in real time in The Lines Discord channel. Just head over to thelines.com to get that link. But Mo, like I mentioned, LA in Atlanta, and the Dodgers sitting at 31-19, Atlanta 29-19, 7:20 p.m. Eastern Time. First pitch down in Georgia, and Atlanta consensus minus 120 favorite on the money line. Meanwhile, if you're looking to back the Dodgers, around even money, and that price can be found at Caesars Sportsbook along with BetMGM. Remember to price shop for the best number over at thelines.com on any MLB betting market, not just money line odds, totals, player props, whatever it may be. Bryce Elder and his 2.06 ERA, 3.34 FIP taking on Tony Gonsolin, who is a pretty stout ERA himself, 1.13 ERA, but a 4.03 FIP. And both pitchers, I guess, in a sense, due for some negative regression. And Dodgers taking the first two games in this series. Bobby Miller had a massively solid debut last night, major league debut, and one of the better prospects across all of baseball. So how are you betting the third game in this series, Mo, between the Braves and the Dodgers?
Unfortunately, I did take the Dodgers to maybe sweep. I don't know if there's another game tomorrow. I guess since this is a night game, there probably is.
This is the third and final game in the series, by the way.
Yeah, that means I guess a Dodgers sweep is coming. I mean, the market doesn't think so, but I kind of do. Yeah, Spencer Strider kind of got wrecked yesterday. That made me sad. Definitely did not see that loss coming since the Braves were like minus 200, and I thought it was justified. Right here, Braves favored again slightly. Obviously, since I'm betting the Dodgers plus 100, I have the Dodgers favored. Tony Gonsolin outpitching his peripherals yet again. 1.13, obviously ridiculous, whatever his ERA is. Won't stay that low, but this is the fifth straight season, 296 innings now of Tony Gonsolin massively outpitching his peripherals. I think he's clearly doing something the numbers aren't capturing. This season specifically, he's really kind of focusing on attacking out of the zone, it seems like, getting more chases than he's ever gotten. Only throwing 45% in the zone, which is definitely below average. I think that's going to work against the Braves. They have the seventh worst chase rate. It's a team that has made me up the wall at times with their swing selections for multiple seasons now. I know they do a ton of damage on contact, obviously, or this sort of thing wouldn't work. But, I mean, Gonsolin limits hard contact so well. Career 218 bat. I know that's like crazy. Maybe it won't stay that low, but he's clearly doing something to limit damage on balls in play. 5.3% barrel rate. That's well below average. And then on the other side, you have Bryce Elder, who I'm impressed with what he's done. I didn't think he was as good as he's been. I mean, he's definitely not as good as his ERA, but he's been pretty solid and I think projects around league average. But he doesn't look like he matches up that well with the Dodgers. Throws 38% sliders. He's came in very, very slider heavy from the right side, which plays right into what the Dodgers want to do. They have a very strong selection of lefties. They are fourth best in MLB at hitting sliders so far. I think Elder is going to struggle without the platoon advantage generally because he's so slider heavy, and also just kind of like profiles that way, it looks like to me, even though it's hard to know this early in his career what his splits are going to be. It's a little bit too early to take anything away from the numbers, but he has lost over 5% of his strikeout minus walk percent when he goes from facing righties to lefties. So that's a pretty big red flag for me there. I think the Dodgers should be favored here. I would bet them to at least minus 110. Could maybe go up to minus 115 here.
Yeah, and just my mind immediately goes to when you were discussing Gonsolin with ground ball rate, because when you think about if a pitcher isn't overpowering, then what is he doing well? Typically keeping the ball on the ground at an upper tier rate. And last year, Gonsolin ranked just above average among qualified pitchers when it came to ground ball rate. Now that ground ball percentage has dipped, but he also recently came off of the injured list and doesn't have the allotted or qualified number of starts to be among those pitchers right now. So we'll see if the ground ball percentage does increase back to his career high 43% or just about that rate last season. But Mo, I want to jump to the AL West next. Matchup in Seattle that might not be super appealing to the casual baseball bettor, just average baseball bettor. A's and Mariners, and Seattle at 500, 24-24 on the season. 4 back in a loaded AL wildcard race and loaded AL West for that matter. When you think about the Rangers, and DeGrom should be on his way back soon. I believe he got his 3rd bullpen session in on Monday. The Astros, the Angels, and the Mariners, who made the playoffs last year, are going to need some improvement to do so yet again in 2023. But on the flip side, Oakland, when you think about starts to the season, worst 50-game starts since 1901. The 1904 Senators at 9-41, 1932 Boston Red Sox at 10-40, and this year's Oakland Athletics, the soon-to-be Vegas Athletics, sitting at 10-40 as well. 30 games below 500. Now, who knows if Mason Miller will come back, if and when he does come back this season, off of the UCL sprain. You have Esteury Ruiz, who is around 10-1 to win AL Rookie of the Year. He opened the season at 25-1-ish to win that honor. And then you look at where Oakland ranks, whether it's pitching or in their lineup, besides Ruiz, or I guess with Ruiz included, the 8th worst collective weighted runs created plus, and the worst FIP among both starting rotations and bullpens in all of baseball. So I ask you this question generally, however you want to take it. Is there any shot? I mean, obviously everything is kind of numbers dependent, right? It's not like you could tell me, okay, I'm never going to back the A's this season. Although maybe you will say that if Miller doesn't come back and you don't have a decent starting pitcher to back in a given game. But what number would it take for you in a given matchup, let's say against a league average team? Kind of like Seattle, I guess, and obviously pitcher dependent for that matter. But do you go the other way then? If you don't have an answer for me there, attacking the opponent's team total over maybe. Again, however you want to go about this.
Yeah, so I would say, first of all, playing A's overs I think has been very, very good this year because their run prevention is extremely awful. The crop of starting pitchers they put out there actually had some talent, but the only one who's done anything reasonable so far, I think, is JP Sears. I mean, his results haven't been the best, but he's at least missing bats and looks like he could be a keeper going forward. A bunch of lefties, Ken Waldichuk, Kyle Muller from the Braves. These guys have really struggled. Waldichuk going today, he has been god-awful. I cannot believe they keep running him out there and not just sending him to AAA. It's crazy because the projections still believe in him, like not to the point where they think he's good, obviously, are really all that close, but they have him as just a bit below average on some of the systems. I would guess he's very, very bad. All that being said, I actually have the A's as playable today. If you have a Bet Rivers account right now, there's a 255 there. They're like 240 everywhere else-ish. I'm still not going to bet it, but that's like a low edge for me. But I would have to say today is an interesting one because specifically Bryce Miller is one of the hardest pitchers for me to project for the Mariners. He had like 70 innings above A, above A ball, and then they just threw him into the majors, and he's like thriving, but it's basically thriving off throwing 70% fastballs. I don't see how that can continue working, but I think the stuff plus metrics think his fastball is incredible and just all of his stuff is amazing. So maybe he will keep thriving. I don't know what to think of Bryce Miller, to be honest, but overall I would say the number one thing I would look at would probably be two things. Actually, I should say maybe opposing team total overs seems very good. Another one is anytime the A's go ahead, I would look pretty hard at betting the other side if you can get a decent number. I mean, of all the things that the A's are bad at, which they're basically bad at everything, like you said, their bullpen is so stunningly bad. They're so off the charts bad. I've been following baseball for seriously a level to where I'm wanting to bet on it for 15 years, at least 10. I've never seen a bullpen this far off of where the league's numbers are. I mean, they are in their own universe. They're multiple runs worse than everybody else, basically by every metric. It's pretty incredible. The next worst bullpen by WAR is minus 0.5 WAR, and they're at minus 2.2. That is stunningly awful. And
yeah,
Shintaro Fujinami, I would say, has stood out to me. If you ever see that guy coming into the game, he's instant 3 runs for the other team. His ERA is 12. It's just amazing how bad they are. But yeah, I would say maybe some live bets anytime you see the A's go up. It doesn't happen very often. One thing I would say the A's actually do decent, it seems like they can hit lefties. When I look at their lineup, it looks like a lineup that should probably hit lefties, so it makes sense to me.
Yeah, should is probability-wise, unfortunately, as we both know, is different than will with this lineup, but I hear you.
Yeah, but the only thing is, I really haven't found any spots to bet the A's like this because I think the market's well aware that this is a decent lineup against lefties. Every time I've thought, okay, maybe I'll be on the A's today, when it's never happens. So I think it's being priced in.
Yeah, really good insight from Mo there on Oakland collectively. But speaking of priced in, and when it comes to totals, when you look at the beginning of the season, right? Let's take the first 5 games of the year. You had a total of 7, and I think Ohtani opened the season against the A's with the Angels. That makes a ton of sense. 7.5, 7.5, 7.5, 6.5, 8, 7.5, 7.5, 7.5. And you had a large amount of overs cash in that span. I believe all but 2 games during that stretch went over. Now you look at, again, small sample size, but you look at their last 6 games here, and 5 of their last 6 have gone under. And during that stretch, you have a total of 9.5, 9.5, 9, 8.5, 8, 9. So obviously starting pitching plays a role in that, along with bullpen and so on and so forth. But you had teams like the D-backs and Astros, Mariners, that have relatively solid pitching staffs in that slate of, or in that span of time. So looking at how the market has adjusted, again, you can't really say, if Oakland plays Cleveland coming up, for instance, like they did at the beginning of the season, I'm sure we'd see some lower totals because those are 2 underperforming offenses, to say the least. But you look at how the market has readjusted of late, and it seems like these totals are correct, and the A's offense just stinks, even though they should theoretically hit lefties. So this is a very intriguing topic when I was digging into things, because Mo only had 1 bet on the card for today, understandably, with a bunch of day games, although it is Joe Ryan day, and unfortunately we can't talk too much Joe Ryan because he's taking on the Giants in a day game, but hopefully our guy, 26-year-old, something like that, performs well up in Minnesota against San Francisco. But yeah, this is truly an astoundingly bad baseball team and one that is tough to figure, even when you're thinking about team total overs, because for the opponent even. Because like I mentioned, with this recent slate, now I would have to dig back into the numbers and see how many of the opponent's overs cashed versus the total in general here. But it seems like there's been a pretty fair market adjustment looking at this A's team overall. But that's going to do it for this edition of Beat the Closing Number presented by thelines.com. Remember to head over to play.thelines.com if you want a shot to win a $25 Amazon gift card daily in our MLB Pick'em contest. For more details, again, head over to play.thelines.com. You can follow Mo Nuwwarah on Twitter at Mo Nuwwarah, just as it's spelled on the screen. You can follow The Lines on Twitter at TheLinesUS. Thank you for watching and listening. Before tomorrow's edition, yes, we are having a Beat the Closing Number podcast tomorrow with a very special guest, as always, like we typically do on Thursdays with a lighter baseball slate. But we'll talk to you on Thursday. So long, everybody.